The following podcast is part of the Underdog Sports Podcast Network. For advertising information or to find more great podcasts, visit us at www.theunderdogsports.com and follow us on Twitter at RealTheUnderdog.
Okay. Well, just for the record, we got the Sunny in Phoenix too. 52 to.
Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome to the Sunny in Phoenix podcast, a weekly podcast where we keep you up to date on everything Phoenix Suns basketball. My name is Charlie Erling, and we've got Mitch Krumpetich in the house.
Hello.
This week on the show, we'll do a few rapid-fire takes on some potential free agency targets at power forward and point guard for this offseason. After that, we'll recap last week's games against the Raptors, Blazers, and Bucks. And then we'll do some quick previews on our games this week against the Blazers and Mavericks.
Follow us on Twitter at SunnyandPHXPod. Same thing for Instagram. Go on iTunes, leave us a 5-star review and a comment, and you will get a shout out on the show. For our bet question this past week, shout out to @ComicEvangelist on Twitter. He predicted that the Suns would score 63 points in the first half against the Trailblazers. The Suns scored 67, so he was the closest. That means I win this week as well because I guessed 60, Charlie guessed 54. So I am 1-0 on the month of March. So starting strong there, but shout out to Comic Evangelist, and also shout out to him because he gave a huge shout out to Aaron Baines for the Baines game last Friday. So shout out to him. Hope things are going well. Stick around for the end of this episode where I answer a question that he asked on Twitter that I think will be really funny.
All right, so there are some holes in the Suns roster. We found that out. And with some guys leaving next year, like we assume Dario will be leaving, and we have an opening at the backup point guard spot. So we want to address those. We want to talk about who we think would be some good fits for us to target. And right now, I believe the Suns have about $25 million in cap space for next season. So that's a lot to throw around. And the caliber of player, it looks like we're going to be able to find someone just right with the cap that we have to possibly be a starting power forward. Or if we want to keep the Bridges and Oubre starting lineup, we can find a great guy to come off the bench with our bench unit. So let's start things off. Who do you like at power forward? Who's your number one target this offseason at power forward?
I would say my number one target would be, I've got it between two guys, Danilo Gallinari and Serge Ibaka. Two guys who are established veterans, good players. Gallinari especially can shoot the ball. I think Gallinari is kind of like the best. It's like Dario's ceiling, basically. So it'd be kind of cool to bring him in, plug him into that spot. I think he'd fit Monty's system really well. I think, though, of all of the guys on this list of free agent power forwards, I think Serge Ibaka is probably the best. Some may say Montrezl Harrell, as Serge Ibaka is kind of running out of gas a little bit. But I think Serge Ibaka would also be a good fit, and he is still playing at a very high level. So I think between Gallo and Ibaka, I would lean towards one of those guys. And I think as of right now, I would probably even go with Gallo just for the sake of the fit.
Right, and we've talked about Gallo on the show before, and the tools that he brings seems like they'd fit pretty nice next to Ayton. And I think you made a great point saying that Gallinari's game is like Sarge's peak.
Yeah,
I totally agree with that. I've never thought of it that way. That's a really good way to put it. But we see what Dario can do for this team when he's on as a very inconsistent, streaky type player. When Dario's on, we always look good. I'd like to look up, we should look this up. If Dario scores 15 points in a game, I wonder what the Suns' record is in that situation.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I think Gallo is just kind of like a plug and play in that starting spot. But, you know, if we're looking to continue our Oubre and Bridges
line up at the 3 and 4. I think a good backup power forward to target is Christian Wood. I really like him, and he's torched us a couple times, so he
Right.
could be a good backup.
Right. And the way I look at it, I'm in with you. I like Gallo, I like Ibaka, and I like Wood. And Gallo and Ibaka, they're obviously older. They're older than our average age of the team. But if we wanted to find a guy to fit in with our core, who are all right around 23, 24 years old, that's Christian Wood. He fits in perfectly there. And I think his playing style fits next to Ayton so perfectly. I think with that length, that size, that athleticism, and the shooting, I think that makes it for a pretty dangerous front court.
Yeah, I agree. I think that would be really cool. I like Christian Wood. I think he could take a step forward as well. I think he's looked pretty good this year. I want to talk about Montrezl Harrell for a second, though. He's one of the bigger names on the list of free agent power forwards, and he's good. He's a good player, but I just don't know how he would fit on this team next to Ayton, especially. I think of Montrezl Harrell as like the best Kenneth Faried ever could have been. That's kind of how I look at it, and I don't know if that's going to work too well next to Ayton.
No, and neither of them shoot threes, and
Right.
that's such a big part of the game. It feels like you have to have one of your bigs be able to stretch the floor a little bit. And we know Ayton has the ability to shoot mid-range jumpers, but that's not quite enough. We haven't seen him stretch it back to the three-point line yet, which is surprising if you ask me. That we don't
I
even
agree.
see one every 5 games or something. We don't even see that. It just doesn't happen.
I wanted him to shoot those as a rookie. I was hoping he would just start pulling them right away, but no.
Right. If you watched his college tape from the college three-point line, it looked pretty smooth. It looked like it could be a sustainable thing, that he could take a step back and it'd be just fine. But we're yet to see that, and you got to assume it's going to be part of his game in the future. It seems like all the tools are there.
Yeah, I mean, I would expect next season for him to start shooting those. We see him shoot them in warm-ups all the time, and he can make them. So I want that to become part of his game. I think in order to survive in the modern NBA, he is going to have to shoot threes.
Totally. So I want to go back and talk about Serge Ibaka a little bit more. And he's another guy who I question the fit with Ayton. And
Yeah.
yet Serge can stretch it out, but he's getting up there in age, and he's more of a center nowadays anyways. So I don't know if that benefits us, where we have Ayton be able to guard the 4 and Serge guard the 5. That could be something interesting. But I don't know. I feel like if it's really win now, you got to go after Ibaka or Gallo. But if you're still content on chipping away, getting a little better every year, I think Christian Wood's the guy that you can maybe sign for a pretty decent contract this year and keep him around. I feel like if we're not dead set on making a deep playoff run, I don't know who we could sign to make that even happen.
Right.
But-
I mean, it's going to take more than one move, definitely.
Right. I mean, what's it really all about? It's kind of about keeping Devin Booker satisfied here. Is Devin what does Devin Booker think? Would you rather have Gallo or Ibaka, or would you rather have Wood, a guy that you could play the next decade with potentially?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know what Booker would want. I think he's going to be part of this decision-making process, too.
I agree.
I think he's
yeah.
going to have some input on who we sign. So, Devin Booker and Gallinari kind of go back. They have some history together.
That is true. That picture of them, Devin's dad, Melvin, used to play with Gallo when Gallo was just a kid. 16, I think he started playing a little pro ball.
Yep.
So he was just a pup. But then there's a picture of 16, 17-year-old Gallo with, how old's Devin in that?
Probably
8?
10. Yeah,
Something
8 to
like
10
that.
maybe.
Yeah, it's just really cool. It's a cool picture to see, and maybe that history means something. Maybe Melvin and Gallo keep in touch. Like, we don't know.
Yeah, that could be part of it for sure.
All right, there's one more power forward that I want to discuss, and I don't know what to think about this guy, the Latvian Laser.
Yeah, he's having a pretty good season. He's a tough one for me to make a judgment on. It's really, really difficult for me.
Yeah, we're talking about Davis Bertans.
Great name.
Great name, and I'd love to learn how to say that a little more smoothly if he were to sign here. But he's a drop dead shooter. The dude can put him up from 3, and I've heard some interviews about him, and he has this supreme confidence when he shoots.
Yeah.
Was that on the Low Post? I don't remember where I heard that.
Yeah, somewhere. He reminds me just a touch of Mirza Teletovic.
Yeah. I loved when Mirza was here, and when he was on, that dude had range, and he wasn't afraid to shoot.
Yeah.
And that's a lot like Bertans.
Mm-hmm. And I think that, I loved Mirza as well, but he just couldn't do anything other than shoot threes.
That's
literally
very true.
nothing. So,
and to be completely honest, I haven't watched Bertans play a ton of games. I remember catching, quite a few when he was with the Spurs.
right.
But, he only played 12 minutes per game his first year, 14 his second year. But then last season, he did play 21 minutes per game for the Spurs. But in Washington, and then you come back to this, is he just a pretty good player on a poor team?
Right.
And that's another thing with Christian Wood that I go back to. Is he just a pretty good guy on a pretty poor team? Is Derrick Rose really as good as some of these numbers that he puts up? Or is he just the only, is it just a few guys that I don't know.
Right.
We hear that so much about the Suns, it makes me question other teams that are playing poorly.
Yeah. I think Bertans is interesting because he did play in San Antonio, and our offense is really based around what they do. Monty is from Pop's tree of coaching, so it could be interesting. I think that could be an interesting fit having Bertans in there. I still think I lean Gallo, but Bertans is a little bit younger, isn't he?
Right. Bertans is, as I slowly pull this up here, 27. He's 27.
Yeah, so that, that kind of fits our timeline a little bit more. But, at this point, I kind of am throwing the whole timeline thing away. I know we have a few guys who are, within that same age range, but I really don't think we need to focus on that very much. I think we need to get the best players in here, whether they're 21 or 28 or 30 or whatever.
As long as no one comes in and pulls a Trevor Ariza on us again.
Right. Trevor Ariza and Ryan Anderson are outliers, I believe. Ryan Anderson, we didn't think he was going to be great, but no one saw him being that bad.
Yeah, that was tough.
Yeah. So, I think those are just some unfortunate cases where, a guy I don't think we're going to see that from a guy like Gallo or a guy like Bertans or even a guy like Ibaka.
No, those guys are all awesome dudes from all that I've been able to see.
Right.
Yeah. But, so, yeah, that's quite a list. So there's Gallo, Harrell, Ibaka, Bertans, Wood. And then I just have a few more that I'll just toss out there if anything catches your ear. Feel free to say anything, but Jeremy Grant, he has a player option this year, and I think we're missing some athleticism on our team, especially in the front court, aside from Ayton. So I like him.
Yeah, if he has a player option, I don't know why he wouldn't want to stay in Denver. I think he's got a pretty nice role there.
Yeah, but, we have $25 million to kick around, so if he thinks he can make more money somewhere else, maybe that's a factor. So
that's true.
That's something to think about. And then Chris Boucher on the Raptors. We saw him just sneak through and grab so many rebounds against us. He's wiry, he's thin, he's a good athlete. I'm a fan of him, and I think that's just what I'm looking for on this team is an athletic dude who plays smart ball, who can rebound, fit in next to Ayton, but he's lower down on the list for sure.
For sure. Yeah, I think you summed it up well.
Right. Okay, cool. Let's move on to the point guard spot. We want a backup point guard. And as much as Javon Carter has been impressing us lately, this has to be something that we at least look into this offseason.
Yes, Javon Carter is much better as our third point guard option. I'd be thrilled if we kept Javon Carter as our third point guard end of the bench. I think that would be great.
I can get into that too. So let's talk a few options here. And my top option is DJ Augustine from the Magic. And he started the season starting for them, but Fultz ended up taking that starting spot. But he still plays a lot of minutes. He's a solid scorer, decent distributor, and I'm just looking for a veteran point guard who won't let everything crumble as soon as Rubio and Booker come off the floor.
Yeah, I agree with that. DJ Augustine is definitely my top choice as well. This list is not very exciting, unfortunately. I mean, Goran Dragic, a reunion would be cool, I guess, but he just has very little left in the tank. He has a good game here and there, but it's sad to watch him. Jordan Clarkson, no, don't even want to get close to that. Shabazz Napier, don't care. Chris Dunn is an interesting one. He's a restricted free agent, but that's interesting. He's okay. I don't know. I think Augustine is kind of a step above the rest of these guys, aside from Dragic, but Dragic is just kind of nearing the end of his career.
Right. And I love Dragic. I've never stopped loving him. And I know some Suns fans may feel differently, but I think it'd be nice if this is almost sentimental and not even basketball. I don't know if I even want to do that. Maybe I don't want to go down into that. But if we could show that there's some sort of repaired relationship between Robert Sarver and Dragic and just the whole situation that we witnessed through Dragic's career at his stints in Phoenix, if that can be repaired, that'd make me feel pretty good. Maybe thinking that we're taking the right step and James Jones is doing a great job as our GM and builds trust. And I'd love to see that happen, but I don't know if that relates to winning more games next year.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the situation is a bit different than what I'm about to present, but this reminds me a lot of when we hear those rumors of like Amari Stoudemire is working out and trying to make an NBA team again.
Yeah.
And we hear these rumors, well, the Suns need a big guy, bring Amari back. That's what this reminds me of. Now, I know Dragic is still actually playing in the NBA, and it is much better than Amari is at this present moment. But it does remind me a little bit of those kind of things.
I feel that. I feel that. And I want to talk about Jordan Clarkson for just a second here, because as the idea that he could be somewhat of a combo guard coming off the bench, and he's a great scorer. Because if you look behind Rubio and Booker for next season, our guards are going to be Carter and Okobo and Ty Jerome. And we're not sold on any of those guys yet. Carter's made nice progress through the season. Haven't seen enough Ty Jerome. Ellie just got benched this last game. Maybe he might have tweaked an ankle or something. I don't want to say.
I don't think so.
I don't know.
Ellie has struggled.
He earned a spot on the bench. I think that's very fair to say. So the idea of bringing in a veteran who can fill up the stat sheet a little bit, that's enticing to me. Just because when Rubio and Booker are off the floor, things get stagnant on offense quite a bit. Scoring punch off the bench from a guard would be nice.
Yeah, that's true. I just think Jordan Clarkson is not the world's best decision maker.
No, he's not.
So that scares me.
Yeah, I can get behind that. But if you go look through this, combo guard and point guard wise in this free agency class, it's not. There's nothing too flashy that the Suns should probably be targeting.
Right. But, I think that this is a really good thing for the Suns. I think a weak free agency class is really good for us because these guys might not get a lot of offers. They might not get much money offered to them. And, the only way we're going to get some of these guys could be that one, we may be able to offer more money, and two, it's just a weak class. Teams might not be trying to add many free agents because, there's some interesting names here, but nothing exciting. And I think teams are going to be preparing for free agency a year from this summer.
Right. And they're probably also preparing for the salary cap to change a little bit. And maybe if they're going to be offering multi-year deals, they're not going to want to dive in doing those $10 million deals like we saw back in the day. Oh, that was so crazy when the salary cap took that big bump and everybody was just making crazy money.
I'll never forget the day that Mozgov got his deal.
Money.
I was just shocked.
It was $15 million per year, right?
Yes, yeah. It was bad. It's like one of the worst deals ever.
It's probably up there. All right. So we ran through some pretty good targets. Who knows what'll happen by the offseason, though? A lot of things could change, and I think a big thing has to do is if we're bought into the McHale and Kelly starting lineup. I think that makes a big difference who we're targeting for a guy who plays a power forward type position. Who knows?
Right.
Positionless basketball. We don't even know anymore.
Yes, exactly. We should mention, too, that Kelly Oubre did have surgery on his partially torn meniscus and is supposed to be out for 4 or 4.5 weeks. So he theoretically could come back for the very end of the season. So I don't know if he will, but we'll see. I think you're right, though. We have to see if we're sold on this lineup. I mean, the starting lineup of Rubio, Booker, Bridges, Oubre, Ayton was like unstoppable. It was one of the best lineups in the whole league. We had a somewhat small sample size, but that lineup was awesome. When you look at like net rating, offense and defense, like it's a very, very good lineup. I think we should stick with that, but we'll see. We'll see what happens in free agency.
I'm leaning that way too. All right, let's get into game recaps from last week. And the first one of the week, it was the only loss of the week. So let's just get it out of the way and talk about it. Toronto Raptors, final score 123-114. And this one just burned me because we got off to such a nice start. We had a 17-point lead and we blew it. And we saw the team the previous week blow leads to the Warriors and the Pistons. And this was it felt like it was becoming a normal thing.
Yeah. I mean, this was very frustrating, especially because the Raptors, as good as they are so beat up. No Lowry, no Van Vliet, no Ibaka, no Gasol, and we still lost. Pascal Siakam went off. He played 43 minutes, but he had 33 points. Norm Powell, he had a good game too he had 26 points. Oh, no, Lowry did play. My bad. Lowry played, and he had 28 points. 6 assists, 5 rebounds. So Lowry played. But, yeah, no Gasol, no Ibaka, no Van Vliet. They were missing some key guys. So it burns me that we had that big of a lead, and they had all those guys out, and we still lost.
Right, and Siakam is just impressive. We've said it before. He's a pretty fun player to watch, and he really willed them to this win. Him and Lowry and Powell, they all had solid games. So, and then Chris Boucher, who I mentioned earlier, had 19 points, 15 rebounds, 6 of them offensive rebounds, a couple steals and a block. He was everywhere. So maybe that's just the bias that we have as Suns fans. We watch someone just burn our team and then we want them to come play for us.
Yeah, it definitely happened. Yeah, we were saying the same thing about Christian Wood when the Pistons beat us. So
yeah, who knows?
It's funny. Yeah, I mean, and like as far as the Suns go, I think we need to talk about Cam Johnson. Like he had 21 points in 33 minutes, and 7 for 16 shooting. One of his better games this season. And then he didn't play after that because he got, mildly injured. So that kind of sucks.
Yeah, that was tough. This was his birthday game too, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So on his birthday, 21 points, 5 for 13 from downtown, 4 rebounds, a couple assists, a steal, 3 blocked shots. Am I seeing that right? He had 3 blocks in this game. That's impressive stuff. He's really doing a lot of things. He's putting the whole game together lately, and it's a shame that we're missing him right now, especially due to the other injuries that we have going on. It'd be really nice to have him around right now.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I know we won the next 2 games, but I really would have loved to see Cam play in those.
Oh yeah, and 5 for 13 from downtown. That's shooting it pretty well. But if another guy on our team shot that, I would be thinking, man, that's a lot of threes to be taking. But our rookie Cam Johnson, I have supreme confidence in him. Like, he can do that any night, and I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I'm okay with that too. When he hits 5 in a game, that's great. And he was a +3 on the game. So I'm fine. I can live with that.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So a tough loss here, but 2 wins after that. And, the 3 losses in a row, they all hurt pretty bad. There was a lot of frustration going around. The Suns subreddit, that was rough. Just talking with people, everyone was pretty discouraged after that little streak. But then all of a sudden we come back, we play the Trailblazers, and Aaron Baines gets inserted to the starting lineup after Ayton's ankle sprain, or whatever the ankle injury was. But Aaron Baines goes insane for 37 points, 16 rebounds, 12 for 23 from the floor, 9 for 14 from 3. 9 for 14 from 3. That tied the franchise record.
Yeah.
That's more than Booker's made. That's more than MJ's made. I think that's more than Kobe made. That's insane. Aaron Baines just going off. That was a career high in points, the 37. And it was amazing. He had a step back 3.
Yeah, it looked like James Harden.
Like 5 feet.
Yeah.
It was incredible. He stepped back, he lunged backwards, and when he landed, he was in perfect shooting form. In his perfect shooting.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's just incredible, and he gets it going, and then you expect him to do it again. And in the Bucks game, he even hit quite a few threes. He had a big game. It's been a big couple days for Aaron Baines, and after this little streak where he's been injured, and then once he got back, he played poorly for quite a little while there, but now he gets back to the starting lineup, and he's a new man.
Yeah, he was awesome. No one could believe it. We were all just in shock. There's a great moment that I don't know if it was visible on the broadcast, but he hit a corner 3 toward the end of the game in the 4th quarter. That was kind of a dagger. And he was just kind of camped out in the corner, and no one was guarding him. So he took a practice. He just flicked his wrist right at the rim, and then he got the ball and he shot right after that, and it just went in. Swish, perfect shot. And I sat and watched him practice it. It was amazing. He was just so confident. He was on all night long. No one could believe it. The place was going nuts.
It's just so great. And then Aaron Baines and Dario Saric combined for 61 points in this game. 61 points, 24 rebounds between the two. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Like, Dario, when he gets it going, this game, it's beautiful. What he does is so nice. It's just such pure old school basketball. You feed him down in the post, and he's gonna find a way to get to the rim, or he's open for threes. He's hitting those too.
Yeah.
When Dario's on, I love him.
Oh,
when
yeah.
he's not, I think he's slow, and it gets pretty upsetting. But games like this, it makes you want him to come back next year.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I kind of do want him to come back. I think he's really getting into a groove. But this 3-point shooting, we shot 19 for 42 from 3 in this game. That's amazing. We made 19, and Baines had 9 of those. Baines had over half of our made threes.
That's nuts. And sadly, the next night we had a huge drop off where we only went 19 for 43 from downtown.
Yeah.
We made 19 three-pointers in back-to-back games. That's insane.
Yeah, that's unreal. Yeah, I mean, this game, I mean, it really came down to 3-point shooting and then missed free throws. We were 18 for 19, and Portland was 18 for 24. So they had quite a few more opportunities, and they couldn't capitalize, and they shot 13 for 32. They hit 13 threes and still lost by 10. And really, it really wasn't that close. We kind of let them claw back a bit at the end. But we were up by 26 at one point.
Yeah, this was it was so refreshing. This game was so nice to watch. And we talked a little dirt about Trevor Ariza earlier. He was part of a play in this game, which was just fantastic, where he got by Booker, and Baines came in for some help defense and just put his arms up right in the middle of the paint, big sturdy Baines, and Ariza just bounces off of him. He tries to throw up a shot. It goes nowhere. Refs actually don't call anything, which I was shocked by.
Yeah.
It was just a daddy moment for Baines.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was awesome. Yeah, Ariza had 17 points and 5 rebounds on 5 for 9 shooting. I don't like him. And then, I mean, the big players for Portland, they, Damian Lillard had come back, but their big names really didn't play that well, despite what the box score might tell you. So Lillard had 24 points and 6 assists, but it was on 6 for 16 shooting, and he couldn't hit a shot until late in the game. I mean, a lot of those came in garbage time. CJ McCollum played a bit better. He had 25 points and 8 assists on 10 for 20 shooting. He actually had a pretty good game. And then Hassan Whiteside. This guy is so weird to watch because he'll put up these massive numbers, but it doesn't look like he's trying or cares at all. J.E. Skeets he talks about this a lot on the No Dunks podcast, and he explains it very well. But in 40 minutes, Hassan Whiteside had 23 points and 20 rebounds, and you would have had no idea because he just stands around sometimes. It's one of the strangest things to watch in the NBA right now.
Yeah, and you see a 20-20 game, and you go, man, that was huge. But then you look at who he was guarding, Aaron Baines, who he allowed to just shoot so many wide open three-pointers. Yeah. He would not go step out on him. And Baines absolutely made him pay. And yeah, 23 and 20 is great, but giving up 37 and 16 is not good.
Yeah, it's definitely not. And, Portland is really missing former Gonzaga Bulldog Zach Collins.
Go Zags.
Go Zags, that's right. I was thinking about this, though. My Gonzaga bias aside, Zach Collins would have made a huge difference in this game, I think. I think he would have guarded Baines at the perimeter. I don't know how successful he would have been, but I think it would have been better than Whiteside, who even just refuses to step outside the paint, really.
And another thing that just baffles me, I don't watch a ton of Trailblazers ball, but they still play Carmelo Anthony over 30 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
He had 7 points, 3 for 12 from the floor, but 33 and a half minutes in the game.
Yeah.
How are they really expecting to make a playoff run? And they're banged up. Nurkic is a big part of that team, and obviously with that leg fracture, he's been out. But, man, it just seems like Ariza and Anthony and then a guy like Whiteside, that's just not a good mix. Like that's not gonna bake a nice muffin when you throw that in the oven.
Well said.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think Portland is very good. I like our playoff chances better than theirs.
Oh, that's bold.
Yeah,
I like that. I like that.
Yeah, I don't think Portland's very good.
So we're 26 and 38 right now.
Yeah.
They had 28 wins after our game. I'm not sure if they've won since. So it's not too crazy, but
no. I really don't think they're very good.
Yeah, that's saying more. That's talking more smack about the Blazers than talking up the Suns.
Yeah.
I'd say.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I mean, and I think it comes down to injuries. Now, Nurkic coming back could change that a little bit, but at this point, I don't think anyone's going to catch the Grizzlies.
No, I'm with you there. Okay, and then we get to talk about the Bucks game that we just watched today. We came home and recorded, and we're just gonna say this: we're 3-1 against the Bucks in our last 4, and doing some simple math, Bucks missing their best player, Suns missing 2 of their best 4 players, and the Suns win. I think that equals the Suns being better than the Bucks.
I would say so. I would love to say that to all the Bucks fans that showed up for whatever reason. Cream City really showed out. I think they're probably here for Brewers spring training, which sounds pretty miserable to me.
Ugh.
But yeah, they really showed up, and they were treated to just a blowout. So the final score, I mean, we only won by 10 or 9, 140 to 131, but this was not close at all. We scored 47 points in the first quarter. Like, the Bucks played really bad.
Yeah.
And, on our walk back, there were some Bucks fans behind us saying, when Suns fans say anything to us, I'm just going to rebuttal it with, well, we're 50-11. And I would say, I think if the Suns were in the East, they'd probably be 50-11 too.
Right about that. Yeah, we'd be flirting with that 50 win mark right now,
Right.
no doubt.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, you're 50-11 or whatever your record is. I don't whatever. You lost to a team who got their 26th win. Sorry. Enjoy losing in the playoffs, I guess.
Right, and they've been on a rough little streak here, and Giannis being hurt, that's obviously tough, but this was a wire-to-wire win for the Suns. We were up by 25 points at one point, pretty much just had it in the bag. They made things interesting late, but it was too little too late for sure.
Yeah, and by interesting, you mean Eric Bledsoe just hurling his body toward the basket, trying to get anything he could.
Yeah.
Sometimes turning it over, sometimes making a layup. It was pretty painful to watch at the end even.
My long-standing criticism of Bledsoe still holds up. It drives me absolutely insane how deep underneath the basket he gets before he tries to put up a layup. He's so good at getting into the lane, but I feel like he lets guys swallow him up when he does that, and it's not successful. And something I like going on other teams' subreddits after our games just to see what they're saying, and the amount of Bledsoe hate just made me so happy. They all want DiVincenzo to start, and
wow.
Yeah, it's funny, but they should know better. They have 53 wins or whatever it is.
Yeah, whatever.
It's pretty impressive. They're in good shape. If Giannis is going to be all good heading into the playoffs, I think they'll have a pretty high chance of making it to the finals.
Yeah, well, and I should say this: my salt aside from the amount of Bucks fans that were in attendance, the Bucks are very good, and as long as Giannis is healthy, I think they could make the finals in the East. Now, I don't think they'll win. I think the Lakers and Clippers, whoever makes it of those two, are better. But the Bucks are very good. And so are we, apparently.
Yeah,
you know who else is very good? Ricky Rubio.
Ricky Rubio triple-double.
25, 13, and 13. Yeah,
it only took 3 quarters.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing to watch.
When Ricky has the jumper going, everything is just so much easier for everybody else on the floor wearing a Suns jersey. Everything gets so much easier. He was 8 for 15 from the floor, 3 for 7 from downtown, 6 for 6 from the line, some clutch free throws at the end, 13 rebounds, 13 assists, 3 steals, only 1 turnover, plus 10, 25 points. Ricky Rubio on superhero action figure night, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, he went off. And I said they need to make an action figure of Ricky Rubio every night, apparently. Yeah, he looked great. Another superhero from this game was Mikal Bridges. He had one of his most complete games as a Sun. It was so good. 21 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists. Let's see, defense, only 1 block and no steals, but that surprises me. He hit 2 threes, 7 for 13 shooting, cutting to the rim, fast break points. He was just a joy to watch.
I love that guy. I love everything he does. And I've always been slow to criticize him because his college career was great. He did.
Yeah.
If you look at what he was doing in college, you just got to think maybe he needs a little time to settle into the NBA. And it's happening right now. He's getting settled in. He looks so confident. And I think it thrives on the defense too. He gets amped up when he's shutting someone down, and then he wants to score on him too. And I really, really hope he just keeps growing and growing as a pro. And I think he has a good chance to.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a great player. Yeah. I'm so happy that he's growing this season. And I was pretty critical of him. I will say, especially at the beginning of the season, I was like, I don't think he's going to be very good. And I was wrong, and I'm so happy I was wrong.
That's right. You know, I'm happy you were wrong too.
But another guy who played well was Booker, of course. 36 points, 8 assists, 5 rebounds. I should say we called him out last week for having a few poor games and playing pretty selfishly, but he completely turned that around. He had 8 assists in this game. I believe it was the Portland game. Let me double check. Where he had 12 assists. Yep, that was the Portland game. He had 23 points and 12 assists in that one on 8 for 20 shooting, so the shot wasn't falling as well for him. So he had 12 assists. In the game against Milwaukee, he had 8. The shot was falling very much in the first half. 13 for 17 was what he shot, 4 for 6 from 3, but most of those points came in the first half. I believe 28 of them came in the first half. And they doubled him like most teams would, and he was able to pass out of it for the most part. He did have 6 turnovers, which hurts, but 8 assists, we still won big. It's okay.
Right. And the shooting was just so efficient. 13 for 17 from the floor, 4 for 6 from downtown. And there was a moment where I think he hit 3 buckets right in a row. And I looked over at you and I said, I forgot that he does this.
Yeah.
We hadn't seen that in a while. And the threes were dropping and it was fun. And when you see Booker get in that rhythm, it's going to be a big night. And, even with quieting down in the second half, still put up 36 on the night. That's fantastic.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was very nice to see. And then we should talk about Aaron Baines. 24 points, 7 rebounds. He did not hit 9 threes, but he did hit 4. He was 4 for 11. He was pulling quite a bit, but
yeah,
why not? You got to let him. So, still a good game though. This was a really, really solid game. I'm glad they didn't have Giannis, but the Bucks, Chris Middleton is a very, very good player, and he had 39 points. Chris Middleton had a great game. Bledsoe, as much as we talk negatively about him, he did have 28 points on 12 for 19 shooting. It's not like he was that horrible, and 7 assists. Like Bledsoe was pretty good.
No, he played a pretty solid game against us, but the mistakes that we were so used to seeing, or they really showed up big in big moments of the game.
Yes. And I always say when we play the Bucks and we see Eric Bledsoe, he hasn't changed a bit. He plays exactly like he did when he was in Phoenix. It's just so reminiscent of exactly what we were used to when he was our point guard. It didn't change at all. He's just surrounded by better players than he was when he was with us.
Agreed. I think that'll wrap up the game recaps. We'll do a quick bit of game previews here. 2 games next week is all. One Tuesday, one Saturday. On Tuesday, we have the Blazers. Our homestand is over, and these are both going to be away games. So Tuesday against the Blazers.
Yeah, this is actually our bet question game. So follow us on Twitter at Sunny and PHX Pod and tweet your response to us. Our question for this game against the Blazers is how many points will Javon Carter have? Javon has been playing pretty well lately. So my guess for that is going to be 8 points. I think I'll have 8 against the Blazers.
Okay, 8. He's an unpredictable player. It's tough to guess how many points Javon's going to score. And we saw him play 32 and a half minutes in this Bucks game, and Ellie go to the bench. So we could maybe see him have quite a few minutes in this one again. But as I think he's a streaky player, I'm going to go with 6. I expect a quiet night.
Yeah. Okay, so you got 6, I got 8. Right now, it's 1-0 for me. So, yeah, like I said, tweet at us, and whoever's closest on Twitter will also get a shout out on next week's episode.
So, against the Blazers, what do we have to do to get a similar result to this week's game?
I think we need Aaron Baines to score 37 points. No, I'm just kidding. No, I think we need to shut down one of McCollum and or Lillard.
Right, and I was so impressed with what we did early against Dame this last game. I don't see that happening again. So
Right.
I think we have to prepare for a Damian Lillard firestorm.
Yeah, I think they will bounce back. It's in Portland. We have a hard time playing up there. We have won up there this year, but I wouldn't be surprised if we lost this and split the season series evenly. But I think it's winnable at the same time. So, we could, but I'm not really banking on it.
Yeah, this game will determine who wants the 9 seed worse.
Yeah, really.
Maybe that's even a little optimistic for us. We got a little ways to go, but
Right, and we still have the Pelicans to worry about for that. But
we're just memeing around. It's all good.
yeah.
All right, and then the Mavericks on Saturday. It's been such a long time since we played the Mavericks, it feels like.
Yeah, it has.
And we have them again the following week, I believe. So we get them 2 more games
Yeah.
this season?
Yeah, it's we scheduled the Mavs just like we did the Blazers, and I feel like we do this every season where we play them really early on in the season and then really late.
Yeah.
Within 2 weeks. So, yeah, this is going to be an interesting one because the Mavs they're a good team, but they have been on a bit of a schneid lately as well. They've been struggling. So, this could be a game that we could take.
Right, and what I've noticed with the Mavs that's interesting is that KP, Porzingis, will have a big game when Luka doesn't play. But when Luka plays, it seems like KP just fades a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Porzingis is still just kind of trying to find his way in Dallas. I know he's gotten quite a bit better. He's actually had a halfway decent season. But the times that we have played at the Mavs, Porzingis has been pretty bad. Either not played or been pretty bad. So hopefully we can get that again. And I'm really interested to see if Ayton or Cam Johnson will be able to play in either of these games. I think that'll make a big difference.
Right, and I'm really thankful that Ayton's injury doesn't seem to be too big of an issue. I know a lot of talk on the internet was that it looked terrible, and I was in the opposite corner. I thought it didn't look that bad. Mm-hmm. The fact that he got his leg dove into looked bad, but I don't think the result was all that bad. So I expect him to be back pretty soon. And to be honest, I don't even know what Cameron Johnson's issue is right now.
Right. I think there hasn't been a lot about that. Ayton was he was suited up on the bench, so that's a good sign for sure.
Right. He looks like he's nearly ready to go. And it's an illness for Cam Johnson. It's just an illness, which is good, I suppose.
Yeah, he should be back soon.
Yeah.
I think.
We don't need to talk about the coronavirus on this.
No,
podcast,
we don't. No.
We're not
Everyone has
doctors.
heard plenty about the coronavirus.
We're not doctors. It's time for
Well,
non-sports plugs.
Yes, that's right. On that note, tell us your coronavirus story. No, I'm kidding. That's not our non-sports. So like I said at the top of the episode, I have been requested to tell this story. So I guess the question is, what an odd experience you have with a goose? Comic Evangelist tweeted a pretty scary story about a goose, actually. Or no, it was a swan. He said a black swan. But you'll understand why I'm mixing the two up. So this story is from a few years ago. Friend of the show, David, who used to be on the show, he and I went to a concert together, and we saw this band that we like called Polyphia. I've talked about them many times on this show. And they had this shirt that had geese on it. And I thought it was cool. So I wanted to buy it, and I told the guy, I said, let me get that shirt with the geese on it. And the guy was pretty confused. And I pointed at it, I'm like, that one, the white one with the geese on it. And he grabbed it, and so I was like, okay, great. And I thought it was a cool shirt. I put it on. They also have a song called Goose. So that's what I thought it was in reference to. So we see the show, and we get back to my place, and David says, oh, I like that shirt. And I said, thanks, it's got geese on it. He said, no, it doesn't. I was like, yeah, look at these birds. These are geese. And he says, those are swans. I was like, well, they're the same thing. He looks at me like, no. I said, well, I mean, geese grow up to become swans. And he was like, no, they don't. I said, have you not read The Ugly Duckling? It's the story of a goose that grows up to become a swan. He said, no, that's the story about an ugly duck that grows up to be not ugly. So these are all three different animals. And until I was probably 23 or 24 at this point, up until that point, I had believed that geese grew up to become swans. Yeah. So apologies if I've told this story on the pod before. I don't know if I have, but yeah, that's my story about geese and swans.
That's still ridiculous. I'd heard this one in the past, so that wasn't quite the reaction that I maybe should have given, but it is a ridiculous story.
Yeah, it is,
to say the least.
I know it.
I think I was chased by a goose or a swan or a duck. Now I don't even know. See what you did here? I don't even remember. I was just a little guy, and I was golfing with my dad, and I got out of the cart to get my ball to go hit it. I was in the rough, and I went out there, and I saw it. I think it was See, I'm questioning myself now. It was bigger. It was a goose. I'm going to say it was a goose, because it wasn't a tiny little duck. I wouldn't have been scared, because this thing was like near my height. I was probably 4 or 5, so it was big to me. But I went to get my ball. I saw it to the side, and I kind of stopped and looked at it, and I thought it was going to be okay. And I took a few more steps towards my ball, and it spread out its wings and started running at me.
Oh my gosh.
And I just hauled. My little legs pumping as fast as I could. And my dad cuts off the goose with the golf cart, and I jump in on the other side, and he saved me from it. It was ridiculous. That's one of my earliest memories, though, was getting chased by, which I do believe was a goose. Some sort of fowl. I can guarantee it was that. But I remember being chased, and I assume I got close to one of its babies, I was in its territory or something like that, because it ran me off. It did a good job.
Yeah, that's wild. I'm glad you survived.
Yeah.
The wild goose chase, if you will.
Oh, yeah. And your wild goose shirt.
Yeah, yeah. I should wear it for the next episode.
Yeah. We'll post
it on Instagram or something.
Put it on the gram. Do it for the gram.
I think I am due for the quarterly Instagram post.
That's fair. I think that might be on our schedule.
Yeah.
I believe. We'll look into that. But anyways, thanks for tuning in. Check out that Instagram and Twitter at Sunny and PHX Pod. Give us a shout out. We'll hit you back. We like making friends on there. And I make jokes about this because we don't do a ton on social media. We're not posting there every day, but say hey. We'll discuss some Suns ball with you. We like doing that.
Respond. If you tweet at us, I will respond.
Hondy P. Mitch will respond. Anyways, thanks for tuning in. Nice 2-1 week for the Suns. Nice to see a couple wins in there. Come in again next week. Maybe we'll have another win or two to talk about. Go Suns.